You're walking through a lush summer garden surrounded by healthy plants and buzzing bees, and it's almost hard to believe that less than a century ago, families survived in near darkness. No stores, no fertilizer, no guarantees. Just dirt, sun, and yesterday's ingenuity. Now imagine turning your patch into a resilient, productive haven, all using techniques that once sustained households through rationing, blockades, and blackouts. These 7 wartime farming tricks aren't relics. They're survival-tested, low-cost, and able to transform your gardening whether you're a beginner or seasoned green thumb. Let's uncover them one by one, and learn how to apply them today. During the war, families dug narrow, deep trenches about 2 feet down and 1 spade wide. In places like Yorkshire and Denmark, this method trapped underground heat, held moisture longer, and kept cold winds at bay while growing cabbage, kale, and carrots well into early frost. They layered twigs or straw at the bottom, compost or kitchen scraps above that, and finished with soil. Warmth rose from decomposing matter, insulation kept roots cozy, and harvests extended when the land above froze. To replicate this, dig similar trench beds, layer materials the same way, and even line sides with stones or bricks for added heat retention. Cover a trench with burlap during frost spells for DIY mini greenhouses that need no glass. With no electricity and rations for roots high, World War II families relied on cold pit storage. They dug pits below frostline, 2 to 3 feet deep, lined with straw, sand, or ash to prevent moisture buildup. Root crops were stored with separation layers, then covered with cloth, lids, and soil, or even snow to insulate. These buried pantries kept produce safe, cool, and rodent-resistant through long winters. You can build one today by digging just beneath your frost line, choosing dry-lining materials, and ensuring good drainage. Label your pit, check occasionally, and rotate produce between multiple pits to avoid spoilage and loss. When chemical help vanished, wartime gardeners turned to wood ash. Hardwood ashes from oak or maple became prized for the potassium, calcium, and trace minerals they offered. They were applied sparingly, lightly dusted onto beds or mixed into compost, and even used in thin rings to deter slugs. Start collecting ash from untreated clean wood, store it dry, and use it sparingly, especially around greens, seedling beds, and root crops. Avoid ashes from coal or treated wood. Yes, it's old school, but your soil and plants will thank you. Facing fertilizer shortages, some families harnessed a taboo but effective resource: diluted human urine. With a proper ratio, about 1 part urine to 10 parts water, it became a potent but gentle nitrogen boost for leafy crops or a compost activator. Farmers and homesteads from Finland to the Balkans adopted this method to green up tired soil in early spring. To use, collect urine cleanly, dilute consistently, and apply to soil, not directly on foliage. Use in moderation to avoid salt buildup. If composting, it helps speed decomposition. Just monitor microbial health carefully afterward. During wartime, seed lines stalled. Gardens survived year to year only when families saved their own. They chose the healthiest plants, letting beans dry, tomatoes overripen, lettuce bolt for seed, and labeled, dried, and stored seeds carefully. These open-pollinated seeds ensured dependable crops and kept homes fed season after season. Grow an open-pollinated variety today, select best-performing specimens, dry seeds thoroughly, use paper envelopes for storage with silica or ash to absorb moisture, label clearly, and start your own seed legacy. When winters delayed planting, gardeners created warm planting zones using manure. They dug shallow trenches, layered fresh manure at the base, covered with straw and soil, and watched temperatures climb above 20 degrees Celsius, warm enough to plant lettuce, spinach, or onions early. In northern France and Holland, these beds were paired with cold frames or salvaged windows to amplify warmth. You can build one easily. Just choose fresh animal manure, layer it in a trench as described, cover with soil, and use old window panes for glazing to hold heat. Come spring, warm beds can jumpstart your season when the rest of your garden is still frosty. With water scarce and evaporation high, World War II gardeners protected their soil with suspended cloth shades. Old linens, burlap, and shirts were draped over crops to cut midday heat by half, suppress soil crusting, protect delicate seedlings, and reduce water needs dramatically. In southern Italy and the Balkans, shifting shadows from such makeshift shades kept young plants alive when rainfall was rare. Use lightweight cloth or burlap hung over stakes above your beds. Adjust daily to provide midday shade, while allowing morning or evening sun. It's an easy, reusable, water-saving option. No machinery, just careful placement. Here's what makes these methods more than history lessons. They're evergreen tools for modern resilience. Trench beds, hotbeds, and seed saving build soil fertility and independence. Cold pits, ash, and shaded beds extend storage life and conserve resources. Urine and hotbeds feed soil cheaply. Each method relies on observation, adaptation, and low-cost materials, all anchored in human ingenuity during crisis. Imagine combining them: trench beds warmed with hot bed techniques, shaded during heat spikes, reseeded with your own saved seeds, and topped with compost activated by urine or ash. You'd be reviving not just plants but survival skills. These wartime techniques weren't theories, they were lifelines. They show us that food security, low-tech farming, and reliance on natural cycles can still be powerful tools in our gardens today. By reclaiming these methods, we honor that legacy and equip ourselves for whatever the next season brings. If you found these stories and methods inspiring, tap subscribe and share this guide with your fellow gardeners. Let's preserve, practice, and grow these timeless techniques, because our gardens and our futures deserve it.